This video is a complete guide to crypto airdrops in 2024. Last week, people who had used the Jito protocol on Solana received an airdrop that was worth 5 figures, over $10,000. So in today's video, I'll talk about why you should be farming airdrops if you're into crypto, as well as dozens of potential airdrops that you can still qualify for next year. I'll also talk about some general strategies for finding and qualifying for airdrops yourself in the future. Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick. As a reminder, nothing in this video is financial advice. It's purely for educational purposes, and anything involving cryptocurrency carries risk. Now, let's get into the video. To start, let's talk a little bit more about this Jito airdrop, as well as why protocols would airdrop you tokens. Maybe you're not familiar with crypto. What is an airdrop, period? Basically, what an airdrop is when crypto-based applications first launch, they often don't have a token yet. And when they do eventually launch a token, what they'll do is oftentimes they'll give a portion of those tokens to early users. And so when we say airdrop farming, when we say you're qualifying for airdrops, basically what we're doing is we're using protocols that don't have a token yet in the hopes that when they launch one, we'll receive some of that initial token supply. And oftentimes, because the protocols don't get widely recognized until after they launch a token, sometimes they're airdropping the token to just a few thousand people. And if they launch it and the market cap is something like $100 million and they launched it and they gave it to a few thousand people, then each of those airdrops would be extremely valuable. And so that's basically what we're doing in a nutshell. And if you have a small stack of crypto or you're just dabbling in crypto, it can be a good way to learn about some new projects and potentially qualify for some outsized rewards. Again, with this Jito airdrop that I'll talk a bit more about in a second, people who had put in sometimes $50, $100, ended up being able to cash out over $10,000. So it ended up being an incredible ROI for people who used this protocol early. Now, to dive into Jito a little bit more, Jito is a liquid staking protocol on Solana, and Solana has been experiencing a bit of a rebirth recently. It's been growing again after completely crashing following the FTX collapse. And Jito is basically a protocol that allows you to earn yield on your SOL by securing the network without locking up that SOL like you normally would when you staked it. And only about 9,000 people qualified for their airdrop. We covered this on the channel a couple months ago, so I know a lot of people who watch my videos were able to qualify, which I'm thankful for. But only about 9,000 people qualified, and basically the minimum amount that you received was around 5,000 Jito tokens. And if you look at how much that was worth, basically, they don't have the very first couple hours when it was trading around $1. Basically, the minimum you could have sold it for would have been around $1, and the maximum would have been around $4 in the first week. So there's people who put in $50 staking on Jito a couple months ago, qualified for the airdrop, and ended up being able to cash out upwards of $20,000. So that just shows you the potential of these airdrops. I mean, even if you're well off, it's tough to fade $20,000, right? And so in this video, we're going to talk about some other airdrops that could still be on the horizon. And I'll share the general categories of airdrops that I'm looking at today and in 2024, as well as some other resources you can use to find these yourself in the future. All right, so the first category of airdrops that I'm still looking at is other airdrops in the Solana ecosystem. I did a big video a few weeks ago on 12 Solana airdrops. There's actually even more that I think have potential now. So I'll link that video as well as this checklist down in the description. I just laid out checklists for all these potential airdrops. Jito already happened, sorry, but there's a lot more that I think could be a similar size to Jito, although the farming of them is definitely more competitive now that Jito turned out to be so lucrative. All right, so which ones am I looking at? Well, the first one I'm looking at is this lending protocol. It's the largest money market on Solana. It allows you to borrow and lend tokens, and it's called MarginFi. And I've been farming this one very heavily since September when I first made my video about Solana airdrops. And I think this could be pretty big. Traditionally, the largest lending market on a blockchain tends to be one of the largest DeFi projects, and MarginFi is one of the largest DeFi projects on Solana. So this is very competitive. There's $300 million supplied. However, definitely going to be farming MarginFi still. And I have all the steps of things that you can do here on this guide. Next one that I'm farming on Solana is this Drift protocol. So Drift protocol is the largest perp DEX on Solana. Basically, it allows you to leverage trade various different tokens. Some of them are tokens like Sol, some of them are newer tokens like Celestia, some of them are majors like ETH. However, I would say that this has a lot of potential as well. Perp dexes are generally a solid business because people are willing to pay fees to leverage trade. And so I'm using this, I'm providing liquidity, I am staking assets, and I am also trading on it as well, just to boost my stats. And again, there's no guarantee that these protocols do airdrops. However, oftentimes these protocols that don't have a token yet will launch one eventually. And I'll also note that MarginFi has a points system, and points are usually a good indicator that they're planning some sort of airdrop. Next one that I'm looking at is Jupiter. So Jupiter is the largest DEX aggregator on Solana, processes a huge percentage of Solana volume, and they've already done their snapshot for their first airdrop, so sorry you missed that one. However, they have said they're going to have 3 airdrops, and they haven't done snapshots for the second and third one yet, so those ones will probably be more competitive. But any sort of trading on Solana, I would recommend using Jupiter to hopefully qualify for that airdrop. Next one that I'm definitely wanting to qualify for, and again, there's others, but I'm just highlighting a few that are my favorites in this video, is Tensor. Tensor is the largest NFT exchange on Solana with about 70% market share. And basically, it functions like Blur sort of on Ethereum, but it's the largest NFT marketplace, processing crazy volume right now, and they don't have a token. They do have an NFT called Tensorians. Full disclosure, I own a few of these. However, if you can't afford a Tensorian because they're pretty expensive, 100 floor, you can actually gain points on Tensor by buying or selling any collection that's in the top 100. And so that's how you gain points, and eventually, like most points programs, I would expect this would qualify for some sort of airdrop. And there's others on Solana as well. Again, I'll link the full video down in the description, but that's the first thing that I'm looking at for 2024 is more Solana airdrops. It's a fast-growing chain, fast-growing ecosystem, and I think a lot of people who started using it for the first time after Jito said, hey, maybe this is different than Ethereum, but there's some applications that it's very well suited for simply because it's so fast and so cheap. And so I'm definitely going to continue to farm these. Second thing that I'm looking at, and this is something I haven't really talked about on this channel, at least not in a couple of years, is I'm farming airdrops in the Cosmos ecosystem. I think similar to how a lot of people were ignoring Solana a few months ago, I think a lot of people are ignoring Cosmos now. So I've taken some profits on some things that I made from the Solana ecosystem, and I'm now using some of that to farm Cosmos airdrops. And the first way that I'm doing that is by staking and participating in governance on Cosmos Layer 1s. Tons of major Cosmos tokens, when they launch, they airdrop a portion of those tokens to people who have staked and participated in governance for other Cosmos Layer 1s. And the reason why, as you think about it, they want to get their governance tokens in the hands of people that they know are going to be dedicated holders, that are likely to stake, that are likely to participate in governance. And to give an example, when Celestia dropped, they gave TIA tokens to people who were staking several other Cosmos chains. And so what I'm looking at here is my top priorities are TIA and Injective. I think both of those are likely to lead to pretty decent airdrops, especially because so many other chains, and especially so many Ethereum layer 2 rollups, are integrating Celestia as a data availability layer. So I'm staking TIA, staking Injective, and then also I think that there could be some airdrops coming for people who stake Kuji, Osmo, and Atom. And I know that's a lot. I would say in most cases you probably don't have to stake a ton. Probably you want to stake more than one of these tokens. I'm targeting something like at least a couple $100 worth in each. However, if you have to choose just one or two, my top choice here is Celestia, because so many chains are integrating Celestia as a data availability layer. And then the thing I would note is that to try to increase your chance of receiving it, I would try to also vote on any governance proposals that come up. Another thing I would do here is, and I'll talk a bit more about the Injective ecosystem because there's a lot of cool stuff happening there. And Injective is, I would say, one of the most bullish tokens on the market right now. Is there's certain validators that will actually give you an airdrop of their token when they eventually launch it. And two of these are Black Panther and Talus. Black Panther is this application on Injective as well as a few other chains for asset management. And then Talus is an NFT marketplace. I also think that there's a lot of interesting things happening in the Injective ecosystem in general. Like I said, Injective has run up a lot. It was around, I think, $1 at some point last year. Now it's over $20 as of the time I'm making this video. And they have a lot of cool applications coming. By the way, I did a full video on Injective a few weeks ago. I'll link that down in the description as well. So if you want to get up to speed on what Injective is, then that's a good place to start. But basically, Injective is a Cosmos Layer 1 that's purpose-built for trading and finance. And they have a lot of cool applications coming. And so I think trying to secure airdrops for those might not be a bad move, since Injective is building such a large market cap. Some of that will probably trickle down to its ecosystem. One of those that I'm looking at is Helix. Helix is the flagship application of Injective. Now, I don't know if they'll do an airdrop, because keep in mind, Helix, I feel like, is kind of, it's almost synonymous with Injective itself up to this point. So I don't know if they need an airdrop, but it is the flagship application, so it wouldn't hurt to try it out. I mean, if you're interested in Injective anyways, then you probably want to use their flagship application, but open some trades, provide some liquidity, and that's what I would do there. Another interesting one is this Neptune Finance, a peer-to-peer lending protocol. You can interact with them on testnet. There's this other gaming ecosystem on Injective called Ninja Blaze. Again, you can interact with them on testnet as well as participate in their Galaxy campaign quests. And then there's this other one, Aeroscraper, which bills itself as a governance-free, interest-free, decentralized lending borrowing platform. And like with Ninja Blaze, I would participate in their Galaxy program as well as their testnet to try to set yourself up for an airdrop. And again, with all of these things that I'm recommending in this video, it's not a guarantee that you qualify for an airdrop, and it's not even a guarantee that these protocols do an airdrop. However, in the past, when you do these things like interact with the protocol before they launch a token and interact with them on testnet, increases your chance of receiving an airdrop, and oftentimes doing multiple of these things will get you an even better airdrop. For example, if you interact with them on testnet and then continue to use them after they launch, then oftentimes you have a pretty good chance of getting a nice airdrop from that protocol. And that's the general strategy that I would use for Cosmos. Again, staking these various layer 1s, participating in governance, and then I would use all these applications on the Injective ecosystem. And I know this is getting to be a lot to manage, so I would say even if you just do Cosmos and Solana ecosystem, I think you're positioning yourself pretty well. However, there are some other good opportunities as well that I'll talk about now. So I have this document that I'll link in the description. I know there's a lot of documents, but there's a lot of airdrops. And this is checklists of other airdrops that I think could happen and steps you can take to hopefully qualify for them. And the next general category that I would be looking at would be Ethereum layer 2s without a token yet. Some of you might remember that Arbitrum did an airdrop earlier in 2023, and for a lot of people that was also worth $10,000. Even people who got smaller airdrops, it was usually worth at least a few $1,000s. And I think the similar thing could happen with some of these other layer 2s. That being said, the largest one of these, which I would say has gotten the most attention, ZK Sync, is being farmed very, very heavily. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of transactions a day as people try to qualify for this airdrop. So this one is very competitive. However, some of these layer 2s I'm going to talk about are significantly less competitive, and so I think you have a much better chance of qualifying. First of these is this Scroll Ethereum layer 2. It's a ZK rollup. It's also EVM compatible, and I think it's being farmed significantly less than ZK Sync. So Scroll is one that I would absolutely be looking at, and I have the guide down here in the airdrop checklist. Next one is Linea. Linea is a new Ethereum layer 2 ZK rollup built by Consensus. Consensus is the same company that makes MetaMask, so they already have a track record of building widely used products, and they're already integrating Linea to MetaMask. And I made a video on this just a few days ago. They have an ongoing DeFi Voyage XP program right now, but I would say using Linea, getting XP for this Linea Voyage would be a great way to qualify yourself for a potential Linea airdrop. And I feel like this one's being very, very underfarmed, by the way, compared to the fact that it's built by such a reputable company with such a large piece of infrastructure in the industry. Next one, and you might not think of this as a layer 2, but they're building one, is DBank. So DBank is the leading Ethereum wallet portfolio tracker. However, they're also building a layer 2, and they have a whole social application as well. So I have another video on how to actually qualify for the DBank airdrop, but I would bucket that into the Ethereum layer 2 category. Oh, and they also have a wallet. They have the Ravi wallet, which is one of the best wallets for using DeFi, I think. But I would say qualifying for the DBank airdrop could also be fairly lucrative. And then the other one is actually Base, right? Coinbase's layer 2. It was really hot a few months ago. It's kind of started to lose some of its, it's kind of fallen out of the limelight recently, but I still think if Coinbase decides they want to do a token eventually, then I think that would be quite valuable given that it would be backed by Coinbase, right? Consider how valuable BNB is, and it's backed by Binance. Coinbase is another major exchange on par with Binance, at least in the United States, much larger than Binance, in fact, in the United States. So I think qualifying for their airdrop wouldn't be a bad move either. All right, so those are Ethereum layer 2s. The next category of protocol that I would try to qualify for would be protocols that don't have a token yet. And these could be on any network. And specifically, I would look at protocols that don't have a token and have a point system. An example of this would be Prime Protocol. Prime Protocol is a protocol that lets you deposit on one chain and borrow on another chain. And the thing is, if you look here, they have something called Prime Points. And when protocols do this, it's never a guarantee that there's going to be an airdrop. However, it makes it highly, highly likely that there's going to be an airdrop at some point. Because why would you be tracking points to measure how much users are using your project if you didn't plan on rewarding them in some way? At a minimum, it would be fairly dishonest, but generally speaking, when a protocol does points, it means they're planning on doing some sort of token reward for people who have accumulated those points. So I would use Prime Protocol. Only $12 million of liquidity, and that might sound like a lot, but it's really not in DeFi. So I think this is being very, very underfarmed. And you can use it on top chains: Arbitrum, Ethereum, Base, Avalanche, Optimism, Polygon, others. There's tons of ways you can use this. It's backed by Axelar, partnered with Chainlink. I think that Prime Protocol could be a really good one to farm. Another protocol that has a point system but does not have a token is Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid is a perp dex on Arbitrum, but I think where they stand out is they will list tokens that are popular on chain that you can't really trade perps for anywhere else. So for example, if you look here, they have this Bonk token on here already. They have Celestia. They just get these small Jito, Pepe, Big Time. They just get these small popular tokens, on here very, very early. And so I think that this would be one that could be valuable. It's tough to know what their actual volume is right now because people are farming it for points, but you can use this. You can make trades on it. You can deposit into the vaults, and you can start setting yourself up for a future Hyperliquid airdrop. And there's other protocols out there that are doing point systems as well, or that will launch point system at some point. So in general, when you're finding protocols that you might want to airdrop farm, I would always place a priority on protocols that have a point system. Next resource that I'll refer you to is that DeFi Llama, the website for tracking different DeFi applications, has an airdrops tab. And what this does is it tracks protocols without a token. And let's just look how many there are. Almost 1,000. And some of these don't have any money in them. So we'll say 900 protocols without a token. Some of these might never launch a token, but a lot of them will, right? And this is where you can start using protocols. And so my first priority would be protocols that have a point system. I would also sort by total value locked to see how big they are. And some of them, like RatBTC, that's not going to do a token. Binance staked ETH, they already have a de facto token in the form of BNB, although maybe not. But some of these other ones, you might look at them and you might say, okay, there could be some potential for a token. For example, we'll talk about Portal in a second. Blast is doing an active point system. Eigenlayer, we'll talk about in a second. MarginFi, we already talked about, but you can see here how we're seeing a lot of these protocols that are good potential for airdrops. They're showing up on this list, and that's using protocols without a token in a nutshell. So to recap so far, we've got all of these protocols on Solana that have potential airdrops. Some of them have point systems. We've got all these Cosmos ecosystem airdrops. Most of these require you to stake tokens, and then likely various chains will get different airdrops. And then there's also some interesting applications on Injective. We've got all these Ethereum layer 2s, Scroll, ZK Sync, Linea, DBank, Base. We've got some protocols that already have a point system. So you basically know there's going to be some sort of airdrop, right? You don't know how much it's going to be, but you know there's going to be some sort of airdrop. And then we've got all these other protocols that don't have a token. A couple specific ones that I wanted to highlight that don't have point systems, but I think are going to be pretty valuable when they launch a token. First is Wormhole. Wormhole is a cross-chain messaging and bridging platform. Their flagship application is Portal, which I mentioned a second ago, but they have other bridges as well, and that's actually the first one on this list. Layer 0, a lot of people have been farming this very heavily, but I don't think as many people have been farming Wormhole. So there's some various bridges that use Wormhole that I listed here. I would use these for my bridging needs to hopefully qualify for an airdrop. But remember, their flagship application is Portal, so I would definitely be sure to use that. Another one is Eigenlayer. I think Eigenlayer is going to be very valuable because just the market that it addresses is so huge. Basically, what Eigenlayer allows people to do is they can, quote, restake their Ethereum by depositing staked Ethereum or various different liquid staking tokens onto Eigenlayer to secure other chains as well, and with a focus on securing Ethereum rollups. And so the idea is you are providing security to multiple chains at once, which is allowing you to earn extra rewards on your ETH. So you're earning your initial rewards on staked ETH through Rocket Pool or Lido or Coinbase, and then you're earning additional rewards by restaking through Eigenlayer. And keep in mind, right now they have a cap on how many people can restake through them. At some point, they will probably open that cap up again, and so you just got to keep an eye out for when they open it up to try to get in here, but I think this is going to be pretty valuable. And then if you've done all of this and you still want to try to qualify for more airdrops, then the other place you can look is quests. These are websites like Galaxy, and what these have is basically various different protocols, different NFT projects, different DeFi projects will set up these quests where you can earn rewards for doing various tasks. And some of these tasks are on chain, some of them are on social media, and some of them have rewards that are not airdrops, right? You have this one. They have Trust Wallet has a $50,000 pool for people who are doing these various tasks. Not to say you're going to earn $50,000, that's the total pool. But you can see here that there's just some really interesting token rewards, Discord rewards, and if these protocols don't have a token yet, probably doing their quests isn't a bad idea. Some other websites that you can look at are Layer 3, Questin, and Zeely. These are all different websites where you can complete quests for projects. And the cool thing with all of this is imagine you use all these injective protocols on testnet and you try out all these different applications without a token and you do all these quests. The worst case scenario is you learned a massive amount of crypto. Probably you know more than 99% of the world. You probably know more than 99% of people who invest in crypto. And the best case scenario is you know all that information and you get an awesome airdrop. So I really think it's a pretty good way to spend your time in the space if you're interested in crypto. And then the other website that I'll link down below that's a good resource is this website, airdrops.io. They have a list here of speculative airdrops. So a lot of these are going to be things we already talked about. There'll be things you could find on DeFi Llama, but it's just one more resource for you. Again, this is a complete guide where you can find some projects that might do an airdrop in the future and start interacting with them. Again, worst case scenario, you try out some new crypto projects and learn about the technology. And if your head is spinning now, that's okay, because I know that it's a lot to keep track of, all these dozens of different airdrops, as well as all of the tasks that you have to do to hopefully qualify for all of them. So in the next week, I'm going to send out a spreadsheet to my email list that will help you to keep track of all of your different airdrop criteria. And you can subscribe to the email list at dynamodefi.substack.com. And this will stay available on my Substack for download. So if you miss the initial email because you're seeing this video in a week, don't worry, you can go to the Substack and download it. And this will just help you to keep track of your airdrops. So stay tuned for that if you want to try out some of the strategies I mentioned in this video. And that's all for today. For more content like this, like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.